What does it mean to live life to the fullest, train to your potential, and perform at your best?
Leave nothing on the table. That's a non-negotiable, is that I strive to be better every day. Because if I'm not on top of my game, how is anybody else going to follow me down the road?
Keep demanding more of yourself to live up to that potential and to stay hungry.
Training is progress. You know, when I look at the word training, I think of steps, baby steps to get somewhere that you want to be. And that is basically your life journey.
It's a mindset in itself, man. It's like, it's not just about, I know that for you, a lot of that's about the physical, but we're constantly in training, whether it's growing our skill sets, whether it's growing our physical bodies, whether it's growing our relationships, whatever. And all of that's a training ground. And that kind of goes back to the mindset that we just talked about.
You underestimate yourself and you don't even start. But then once you start, you often surpass what you thought you could do.
Perform at your best, mate. That's sort of what life is all about. You know, I want to have the knowledge, I want to have the fitness, the health, the ambition and drive that no matter what comes along, when that next phone call comes, I can just say yes. I don't have to worry. Just go and do it.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Live, Train, Perform podcast. I'm your host, Shaun Kober, and this is one of my Coach's Corner episodes with Will Foden. Please note that this is part 3 of a 1 hour, 40-minute conversation with him. In the first 2 episodes, we discussed the current state of the health and fitness industry. We talked about some of the tools that we've been using in our own lives. We've spoken about some of the strategies that we've used with some of our clients, and we've also touched on social media influencers. In this episode, it is a Q&A session. Questions have come in from my listeners and followers, and we sit there and have a discussion to answer those questions. The questions that were asked were in regards to building strength when you feel like you've hit a plateau. And the second question was regarding fast twitch muscle fibers and slow twitch muscle fibers. What is the difference between those two? Let's get this episode underway. So the first question that I had came in was, how much of a role does your mass play in how much you can lift?
Weight moves weight. Anybody who's an expert, in my opinion, obviously not just in my opinion, but from experience, is an extreme example is Eddie Hall. Anyone who knows Eddie Hall, he was 196 kilos when he pulled 500 kilos. He's around that neck of the woods. He's now at 160. He's now doing boxing.
Massive human.
Big dude is a unit.
Yeah. And
I've actually trained at his gym, Strength Asylum. That is the most mental place, boss. Fuck me. And everyone in there's a unit. But yeah, from the analogy of weight moves weight, yes. I mean, you'll see a lot of guys will see powerlifters who've got, they call it a power belly, or they're vast humans. Obviously, mass is gonna, from a law of physics, is gonna help move more mass. But then it depends on what situation you're talking that from. There's obviously power to body weight ratio, and the bigger muscle groups as well are going to make a massive difference. So, an example, we use deadlift as an example. Like, if you've got small, weak glutes and hamstrings, your deadlift is going to be very limited. On the flip of that, if you've got massive hamstrings and massive ass, you're more likely to have a better deadlift because of you mechanically, you've got the leverage to do so. So yeah, I massively, but within context for sure.
Yeah. Just to give a little bit more context to people that are listening, because I did send Will through these questions and the screenshots that I got from these people. But just to give people a little bit more context, I've been doing strength training for a few years now, and at least in the primary lifts, being the squat, deadlift, and rows, I've been able to add weight consistently over time, and I can often lift heavier than men who weigh more than me. But over the last couple of months, I've stagnated and haven't been able to increase my weights. So if nutrition, sleep, recovery, varying rep ranges and types of lifts, etc., were kind of on point, like what would the issue come down to? Would I need to put on some mass to lift more weight, or what's your point on this?
I would, yeah. I mean, I very much so would be putting on mass, because a bigger muscle has more force potential. Like if you the bigger, the more active the muscle is, the bigger the force potential that it has. But also, like it can it be a technical flaw? So it depends how much of a jump she's talking about. Again, forgive me, like you said, we say it's context. Like we both know that if you deadlift properly and you keep the bar close to you, it's a lot easier for you to actually pull off the floor. It's less distance. You utilize mechanics better. If you're not turning your elbows back, for example, not keeping your back engaged, you're going to puncture and you're going to use your back. So imagine all of this is perfect, and she's asking from I am currently training optimally and I need to push to the next sort of level. I mean, a way of doing it is drop back to 3 weeks ago and then try and repeat that method again, because sometimes you can see that strength plateau is just because you haven't had enough volume or stimulus towards that, or the physical element of increasing that muscle is definitely going to be beneficial, whether you're doing upper body, you've got to have a stronger, bigger upper back, or whether it's legs, whether me, for example, I've because of my past injury, I have to do a lot of quad work because I'm very now posterior dominant, where before I was very anterior dominant, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know the girl who is asking this question, and she is tall and very lean, like body fat percentages, like 18% ish.
Wow.
Very, very lean, and she stays like that all year round. So, for her to answer this question specifically for her, it would be, what was that? Was that a motorbike?
Next door. I've got the next door. I'm about to knock a wall through, maybe. I'm not sure. Not in here, but literally, that's literally the other side of the building. So they've got a machine gun in there. So I was mad. Sorry.
Fucking hell. So yeah, I know this person, and what I would say is that, she is very lean. So I would say, putting on some muscle mass is going to aid in your ability to lift more weight. Now, she is a very strong girl. So, the analogy that I like to use is that when it comes to strength, it is like the amplifier, right? So strength is a functional adaptation, meaning that our brain sends a really strong signal to those muscles to then link together the kinetic chain to stabilize the joints and then upregulate force production, which means it needs to basically contract those muscles as hard as possible to shift that weight. Now, a bigger muscle leads to more strength potential, right? Bigger muscle fibers, more muscle fibers, all right, which is hypertrophy. Now, hypertrophy, two types of hypertrophy, myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic. Myofibrillar hypertrophy is where we increase muscle fibers, muscle size, right? So now we have more muscle fibers or bigger muscle fibers that can now produce more force. We still get that signal, but now those bigger muscle fibers can produce more force. And we also have sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is basically the fluid in the muscles that's going to kind of give you a pump, make you look good whilst you're training, but then not really going to do too much for you afterwards.
No.
All right. So looking at hypertrophy, I would say, recommend doing a little bit of hypertrophy, some bodybuilding style work so that we can build the muscles, make them bigger before we then cycle back into a strength training protocol where now we have bigger muscles. We send a strong signal to those muscles. Now they have a higher capacity for force output.
Absolutely. And within that question, the main thing I'd say for a female as well is that what they're eating is massively important. A lot of females they always steer on the lower side of calories regardless of what they're asking for. And what I found with females is because of metabolic, forgive me for these numbers.
Well, it's got a
literally
rattle gun or something.
The females, they forget of all the rest of their metabolism. People, again, females are very, and it's not particularly this lady, but other people that will be listening who are females who lift weights, is that you've got all these other factors you need to take into account. So you want to get stronger, fueling that is really important. Males is the same, but I think females especially, they've got more of a narrative of eating less. So you got to fuel that for sure.
That's a good point. We spoke earlier about energy balance, and a lot of people are focused, majority of people that, let's be honest, majority of fucking general population clients that come to us are weight loss. Absolutely. Right? So we need to create an energy balance deficit. Okay. If you're trying to put on muscle, we need to go the other way. We need to create an energy balance surplus. All right. Now, I go into this in a lot of detail in my nutritional pyramid of importance mini series, which is 3.5 hours of fucking setting up your nutrition. So
Get your pen and paper out, boss, and go.
Yeah. But essentially when we're going into a surplus, the goal is to, just increase your calories just enough for your body to go, all right, I'm getting some extra energy coming in. Now I want to send the right signal through resistance training, taking my muscles through full range of movement, creating that strong contraction, so that I break them down. And now the extra energy that's coming in, my body can then start partitioning those calories and start pushing them towards repairing muscle and creating or rebuilding those muscles bigger, stronger, faster. And what also is going to come with that is, you're going to be stressing the bones as well, and your brain is going to be like, hey, we need to increase bone density so we can deal with these stresses better later on. We need to make our muscles stronger and bigger so we can deal with these later on. And it's not about we need to be careful when we go into a calorie surplus as well, because if we go into too much of a calorie surplus, then we'll put on a little bit of muscle, but we'll also put on a lot of fat. So we need to be in enough of a surplus to be able to put on muscle without putting on or minimizing the fat that we're putting on. And that's going to be completely different for every single person. If someone's eating 3,000 calories a day and they're trying to put on muscle, I might be able to push them up, 400 or 500 calories a day, and they're putting on fucking 90% muscle and 10% fat, and I'm okay with that, right? But if someone's eating 1,500 calories and they're trying to put on some muscle, I might only be able to increase their calories by 50 to 100 calories a day.
That's me.
And
literally, bro. I'm waver very. It all comes down to body types as well, doesn't it? Like you said, some people. I'm short and fat. Like I'm a endomorph. So I take minimal amount of carbs. I can keep muscle on, but I can put body fat on really quickly. Like you mentioned before, this lady who's tall, she's lean, she can ramp up her carbohydrate because she'd absorb more. And you said the differentiation between how much you can push a surplus would be different because it would vary depending on obviously her size. For sure.
That's a good point. Let's talk about the different body types and body shapes. What's it called again?
They've got an endomorph, an ectomorph, and a mesomorph.
Yeah. What's the name that they use to categorize that?
Somatotypes.
Yeah. It's weird, man. Like I was talking to one of my mates probably a year ago now, and we were talking about that, and he was like, "Oh no, that's been debunked." And I was like, "Well, it may have been debunked, okay, but it's like everything, man. Like people take a little bit of science and they run with it, and like science is always like, well, that's wrong because fucking blah blah blah, and that's wrong because, well, guess what? Like to me, there's got to be some truth in that, because the reason I say that is because I look at fucking real world people in front of me, and there's going to be people, yeah, exactly, man. There's going to be people who are bigger boned, so to speak, right, and like. They walk past McDonald's and put on 5 kilos, but they're also strong as fuck, right? Yeah. They put on muscle really fucking easy, but they also put on fat easy, right? And then you've got ectomorphs who are fucking tall and lean and skinny, and they struggle to put on muscle, and they can eat whatever the fuck they want, and they don't put on weight. They're like, and people are like, oh man, that person can eat whatever the fuck they want. They're so lucky, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that dude is trying to put on muscle and he's eating a fuckload and he can't put on muscle. Best, yeah, and that's a problem as well, man. Like that person's metabolism is firing so fucking fast that they cannot eat enough to be able to keep up and, go into that calorie surplus to put on muscle.
Yeah.
So yes, they can eat whatever they want and barely put on any fat, but they struggle to put on muscle as well. The typical hard gainers. And then you've got a mesomorph, which is typically someone who, puts on muscle relatively easy, burns body fat relatively easy. All right. Now we're talking about like a triangle here. So, mesomorph, ectomorph, endomorph. Now, not many people are going to fit into those nice clean categories. Okay, if we draw a triangle and have each one of those categories on each corner, there's going to be a sliding scale where some people are going to have some, endomorph traits, but then they might have some mesomorph traits as well, because if they start training properly and they really fucking dial their nutrition in, then they can start getting the results that they want. And, so understanding that sort of stuff, I think, is important. It's not the purpose of this
Nah.
episode, but it is important to know like where you're at. And so many people go, especially people trying to lose weight, and I've heard it many times before, people like, oh well, you've never been overweight, so you don't know what it's like to blah blah blah. And I'm like, motherfucker, I was 16 years old, fucking 60 kilos wringing wet, playing rugby against adults who are 110 kilos. I'm like getting into the gym, doing whatever the fuck I could, eating everything I could, trying to put on muscle, trying to put on size. And I was like fucking spinning my wheels, man. I was like going insane because I could not put on weight. But I also realized that I was also a very active child. I was burning off everything that I was putting in, So
Just leave it like jam sandwich and come home.
Yeah, and here I was training more and more and more, trying to put on size, but what I was actually doing was just burning off all the fucking energy that I was putting in.
But I did similar. I started off, I was a unit, and then someone took the piss out of me in year 7, and I just went right, and I did the opposite. I went really skinny, and then I built myself back up again. But it takes some knowing your body. I think, like you said, once you start measuring, you can slide that scale yourself. Like, who's to say that you're like, we can't calibrate exactly how many calories you're burning unless you take put a mask on and see it. But if you track your calories and you're hitting the numbers that we're talking about, and then we slide them up a bit and see what happens, you'll then have the ability to adjust. I've tracked my calories for 4 years. So I've lost, came to Singapore 105. The lowest I've been here is 90. I sit at 95 now. And I'm fully responsible. And don't get me wrong, I personally like having a coach because it's more of an accountability. And being and we're a lot more, we see the bigger picture in nutrition. But I think what people don't do is they don't jump on the wagon. They don't jump on they think measuring is, oh, I just want you to give me a number and I want to do it. Whereas you're like, no. Because we could say that you're on a calculator that you should be at 2.5. But then you start tracking and you're currently at 1,200. Then it's a whole other animal when we've got two sides of the coin, where there's like you said, the science and there's the art of coaching. And I think that's a big one that we people need to get around, sort of get around.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to explain what we're talking about here in such a short period of time. But again, 3.5 hour fucking 7-part miniseries on nutrition. So every single person's different. And I mean, the point of this is that, people there is generic numbers that we look at and go, right, basal metabolic rate for males should be here at this age and weight and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's generic numbers there that we can base our energy balance manipulation off, whether we want to go surplus, build muscle, or deficit, lose body fat, etc. But, the fucking point is, like, those numbers don't work unless you already fit into that category nice and neat. And your metabolism is already where it should be in theory. In reality, that is never the case. In reality, you're eating way too much, moving not enough, or the complete opposite. And your metabolism is going to adapt because that's what it fucking does. That's what it's supposed to do, to keep us alive. It's going to adapt metabolism. It's going to slow down and speed up metabolic processes. Dependent upon how much energy is coming in and what we're doing throughout the day, activity-wise, etc., etc. So, again, go back and listen to that episode or that mini-series. Now, the other thing I want to touch on is we kind of went off on a massive tangent then, but
literally,
I want to bring
we steered around the iceberg, mate, and just kept going. See you later. We have to come back, mate. Get back on course.
Yeah. Now, I want to go into some different techniques for building that strength. So if we're talking to that person who maybe goes, I don't want to put on muscle mass. I'm happy with my body shape right now and how much muscle mass I have, how lean I am. Then we need to start talking about, some other variables that we can use. And that might be, looking at different muscular contractions. All right. So we can build strength by, focusing on eccentrics. We can build strength by focusing on isometrics. We can build strength by focusing on, and again, going back to what you said before, there's many different types of strength, right? So you said that you're a fucking strong dude. That is magnitude of force, okay? How much force can you produce, right? This is a 1 rep max deadlift. Then the other thing that we have is, that's our jam, bro.
That's me, bro. Yeah, everything else, that's it, done.
But this is our magnitude of force. So if we think about like how much force can we produce, magnitude of force. Okay, we also have rate of force, right? And this is where we're looking at more power-based movements, and it's not so much about how much weight you can shift. It's about how fast you can shift that weight, okay? Because now we're increasing our contractile ability of those muscles, okay? So if I combine rate of force with magnitude of force, now I can contract those muscles a lot harder, a lot faster, and drive through those sticking points, all right? Then we have our repetition of force, okay? Can we maintain this force production for extended periods of time? Right, so it's basically like max strength is our magnitude of force. Then our rate of force is kind of our power, speed, strength, end of the spectrum. Yep. And then our repetition is more of our strength like endurance, bodybuilding, hypertrophy, strength endurance style training. Yep. Now, the last thing I want to add to this as well is that if you want to increase strength, again, going back to what Will said earlier, it's like looking at the muscles surrounding the joints and looking for any weaknesses, looking for any muscular imbalances, dysfunctions, muscles that maybe aren't firing as well as they could be. And something that I always fucking talk about is stability. If your joints are unstable and there's certain muscles surrounding the joints that aren't firing properly to hold that joint in the correct alignment, the correct position, then your brain is literally...
Here he is.
Fuck off, mate.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good. Your brain is literally like a governor, and it is going to down-regulate force production. So if your joints are unstable because certain muscles aren't firing, then the muscles that are firing aren't going to receive as strong a signal from the brain to contract as hard to produce as much force.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, is people are listening. If you when you're at that end range, for example, when you're hypermobile, the biggest thing that I find, again, I have this with when I worked in a school. I was a strength and conditioning coach for like rugby teams and netball teams. Young females are very, very flexible, but they're not very strong. And like you said, that's a huge sticking point of that demographic, is getting someone strong. Because getting someone strong to allow them to express that force in whatever manner we're asking them. Like you said, you have to have a base level of strength to be able to produce power, to be able to be faster, to be able to actually to be stable. You need to learn to stabilize a joint through function properly, and that comes from time under the bar. Shushy tosser. There you go. Done.
I wonder what they're doing up there.
I know them. I actually there's a hole in one of my doors here. I actually walked in on the room where they're doing it upstairs. Like, oi, could you come and sort me out? So if they come down, I'll shout him.
No, cool, man. All right. Now let's move on to the next question, which I think is a good segue. I was going to talk about visualization, but I'm obviously wary of your time. I might cover that in another episode, maybe on my own. But I think I got a question that says, explain the difference between fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers and how to train them. So I think that ties into what we were just talking about a little bit better. Literally,
like, so people don't who aren't versed in this. So you got slow twitch muscle fibers. So your slow twitch, your sort of your aerobic, so your longer endurance pathways are governed through slow twitch muscle fibers, and then you've got fast twitch muscle fibers that are broken down into two different types. You've got type A and type B. Type A would be a glycolytic, so that they're sort of mixed between. You use both oxygen and anaerobic pathways, so sprinting pathways, and then you've got your type 2B fibers, which are purely ATP and sort of creatine dominant. So they're going to be your highly lit. Your full force, speed and power is derived from your type 2B fibers, and your type 2A fibers are going to be sort of your strength endurance. We'll talk about strength endurance, or where you're building up lactic acid, where you're not using oxygen. Those are going to be the sort of ones that are going to be producing force. And then, like we said, the slow twitch are the more aerobic.
Yeah. And just to give a little bit more context before we dive into this in a little bit more detail, the question or the message that I got was, this is from a dude that I know that's trained at Tiger. Last week in a group class, I deadlifted 3 sets of 4 reps for 150 kilos. This week, I was flat out doing 3 sets of 20 reps at 70 kilos, but a chick and some others did this with ease, but I would have no chance at doing that. He says, I read once somewhere along the lines of there's 2 types of fast twitch and 1 type of slow twitch, which Will just covered. And turning fast twitch cells to slow twitch is possible, but it's not possible to turn slow to fast. I have the impression I fucked up somewhere, and based on my very limited understanding, I must lose the slow twitch muscle I have and build fast twitch from scratch. So, Mr. Cobes, what can you offer as advice or direction? Now, as Will just spoke about, we're looking at fast twitch and slow twitch. I like to make it really simple. I don't break it down in too much into like the fast twitch type A, type B. I talk about just fast twitch and slow twitch. And, certain areas of the body are going to be made, or all of our muscles are made up of these types of fibers. And some areas of our body are going to be made up of more slower twitch fibers, and some areas of our body are going to be made up with more fast twitch fibers. So, kind of understanding what your makeup is in different muscles will help you train them. And, there is research suggesting that you cannot turn slow twitch fibers into fast twitch fibers, but you can kind of train fast twitch fibers to become better at, slow twitch roles and functions. Okay, now, let's talk about this in a little bit more detail, because Will did just mention, the slow twitch fibers are a little bit more kind of connected to the aerobic system. Okay, so when we think, I'll talk about energy systems a little bit, so then it makes a little bit more sense, and Will, feel free to jump in, bro, and add as we go. So our aerobic system is fueled by oxygen. All right, now when we think about exercises that is run by the aerobic energy system, we think about running. All right, long distances like a marathon runner. All right, that is your aerobic energy system. It's low intensity, long duration. All right, now our slow twitch muscle fibers are connected to that energy system. Yeah. Okay, and those slow twitch fibers just, contract at a slow rate to keep you moving. They're a lot more endurance based.
They turn you over.
Right, so yeah. And then we have think about certain areas of your body that are going to be predominantly made up of slow twitch muscle fibers. Probably calves.
I haven't got any of them. Mine are gone. I've got calves like a 5-year-old.
Probably calves, right? Because we spend a lot of fucking our time walking around. So our calves are literally always working throughout the day, right? Other areas of the body might be a little bit more slow twitch as well, like maybe our arms, our biceps, triceps, etc. All right. Then our fast twitch muscle fibers, as Will said, I'm not going to go too deep into this because I don't want to confuse people, but I'm just going to say fast twitch muscle fibers, which is going to be connected to our anaerobic energy system. All right. So our anaerobic energy system is going to be, our short, sharp, high intensity, explosive movements that also burn out quite quickly. Okay. Limited, so how I like to think. Yeah, very limited. And again, going back to what Will said, we've got our alactic energy system, which is going to be, fueled by, what did you say it was, type 2A, 2B?
Type 2A.
It's going to be like our super explosive energy system that's going to be, think like sprint, jump, throw, like anything that you're doing fucking max effort really fucking fast. But it burns out really quick. Like that's our jet fuel, right? That burns out very quick. For most people, that's going to last somewhere between, 3 to 12 seconds ish, whatever. So somewhere in that range.
That's type. That's your ATP, your creatine fistula. He said the type 2A ones are the ones that he said about the lactate. Lactate's because you haven't got oxygen. That's the big one. Is like slow twitch slow twitch muscle fibers are red because they're full of blood and they get oxygen freely. Whereas your fast twitch muscle fibers, if you cut yourself open, would be more of they're not literally. Don't go there and cut yourself open just to let everybody know. But if you were to see your muscle, they'd be more white in nature because they haven't got an oxygen supply. So that's the way I always describe to people is that when I can't breathe very easily, I'm usually in that sort of anaerobic zone of either producing lactate or during a speed or an intense exercise. And then from a slow twitch standpoint, you should be able to breathe because, like you said, aerobic stuff is continual and it's never ending. But anaerobic, like we said before, is limited. You only got you got a ceiling, and once you hit that ceiling, see you later. Like it's not going to happen. Where aerobic, you can keep on going.
Yep. So anaerobic literally means without oxygen. So your body's using chemical processes to create this energy. And again, it's broken down into alactic and lactic, and we won't go too deep here, but then that's linked to the type 2A, type 2B muscle fibers, being the fast twitch. Now, the thing with the fast twitch muscle fibers is they are highly excitable and very adaptive, right? So how do we train them? We fucking lift heavy. We produce force rapidly. We train strength. We train speed. We train power. Okay. Now the issue is most people turn strength, speed, power into endurance. They take these anaerobic movements and they turn them into aerobic movements. And all they're doing is limiting their ability to fire these fast twitch muscle fibers, which are very adaptable. This is how you build strength, speed, power, and muscle as well. Right? So, if this is a problem I see a lot in the gym is people take, these excellent exercise, like CrossFit's a fucking prime example, right? I am a CrossFit coach.
Here we go.
Bro, I am a CrossFit coach, but that's something that I fucking hate about. I'm like, I come from a strength and conditioning background. I'm like, power cleans, excellent exercises, pull-ups, excellent exercise, gymnastics work, excellent. All these fucking amazing exercises in their own right, but they are very specific, right? We're training specific movements. We're training specific muscle fibers. We're training specific energy systems, right? But if I take all of those excellent exercises and I put them into a fucking AMRAP, now I'm taking all these amazing fucking strength, speed, power, anaerobic based exercises, really good for producing high amounts of force very fucking fast and building muscle and, firing up those fast twitch muscle fibers. And now all I'm doing is putting them in a circuit and I'm getting them to fire sub maximally, and I'm training these fast twitch muscle fibers to act like slow twitch muscle fibers.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. You said it is someone. People always ask you, "How do I get stronger?" And people always associate it. And you're like, well, you need to lift heavier weight at a higher intensity with a bigger rest period, and actually train strength and speed, not strength. It's so many people. It's the big one you'll see as well in more globalized gyms and other gyms is people don't understand the rest times of them as well. So they're like,
yep.
If you come off a heavy deadlift and it's at 85, 90%. You need to have a little sit down or have a little hang on a minute, whoa, yeah, I'm lifting, I've gone in here, I need 3 minutes off. Not, you see PTs doing a deadlift and they're running off doing a bench press in 30 seconds. You're like, mate, no, you're not, that's not the point. You need to put it in, like you said, have it in where it's suited, not just shotgun, it, have all of it.
Use it for what it's fucking good for.
Yeah.
Right, like the analogy that I like to use. Let's go back to the toolbox, bro. Like if I've got a nail that I need to, punch into something, like old mate's doing right now.
Yeah,
mate.
You got a shit drill, I think.
If I've got a nail that I've got to punch in, I'm gonna grab a fucking hammer.
Yeah.
If I've got a screw
or a shit drill.
Well, look at what old mate's doing. He's fucking drilling into the wall, right? I'm assuming that's concrete, right? So that's going to be a hammer drill with a specific fucking piece, right?
Yeah.
That tool is right for that job. He's not going to get a fucking screwdriver and a hammer and start smashing that screwdriver into the wall to create that hole, right?
Yeah, exactly.
but that's what people do with training, bro. Is they take these awesome tools that are good for really specific things and they use them for things that they're actually not very good for. Here's the thing. Can I drill a hole? Can I make a hole in the wall to hang a picture or something with a fucking hammer and a screwdriver? Yes, I can. Is it optimal? Absolutely not.
And then you're gonna have a screwdriver left afterwards, boss. That's what that's what happens. Is you can't really steer away from it, and that's what I love about the fitness industry and hate it as well. Is it hasn't really changed that long, really. Like you said, is since forever. Picking up heavy stuff's going to get you stronger and build muscle. Not picking up sub-maximal loads over reps that with shit form isn't going to make you stronger. You see what I mean? That's what I love about it. Is like you said, it's the basics, man. And putting it where it's supposed to be is obviously going to be way more beneficial. And it saves time.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what I want to do is tie in the fast twitch fibers and the slow twitch fibers to kind of what we spoke about before with the magnitude of force, the repetition or duration of force and the rate of force. Okay, so your magnitude of force is your strength training. Think powerlifting, right? So this is going to be your fast twitch muscle fibers, right? Think about how long it takes to hit a 1 rep max, 2 rep max, 3 rep max. Probably no longer than 12 seconds, right? And it's a fucking all-out effort to create as much contraction as you can, create a really fucking strong signal, get as many muscles firing as possible to shift that weight, right? That's going to be our fast twitch muscle fibers connected to our anaerobic energy system. Then when I go into, my speed-based work, my power-based work, now I'm looking at my rate of force, right? Now, if I want to get that, it might be a barbell, it might be a dumbbell, kettlebell, it might be a ball. If I'm doing some sprints, jumps, throws, like let's take sprinting because it's really fucking easy to explain. All right, if I'm sprinting at maximum effort, how long can I sprint for at maximum effort? That is the point here. A sprint is maximum effort. A sprint is not, I can do this for a kilometer. Yeah. That is not a fucking sprint. A sprint is all out, as hard and as fast as you can, 100%, right? Fast twitch muscle fibers connected to the anaerobic energy system. All right. Now, that's our rate of force, right? We're switching things on and off really fucking fast. Now, if I go into my repetition effort work, which is my duration of force, this is more of my bodybuilding style training. All right. This is more of the slow twitch muscle fibers with a little bit of fast twitch as well. Probably going to be, depending on how you do it, what exercise you're choosing, it's probably going to be a little bit more aerobic based. Okay. It might be kind of sitting in that lactic aerobic. You might be, and this is where, you might do 20 reps of something and it's only kind of the last 5 reps where you really start getting that burn. So the first 15 reps are going to be driven by probably like the aerobic system and the lactic system working together, because the energy systems don't work independently of each other. No. They all work together, right? So those last kind of 5 to 8 reps where you start kind of getting that lactic burn, right? All right, now that fucking that energy system's starting to burn out, your body's having to use that lactic system to create oxygen to continue fueling, and then that lactic burn, that fucking heaviness in the legs or the arms or whatever is like a byproduct of the energy system or the energy that's being created so that you can use it for that exercise or that movement.
Yeah. And I did to go off that one as well, is you use the slow twitch oxidative system to replenish your anaerobic system. Yep. So like you said about lactic acid, you don't just sit, like when you do create lactic acid, that's what you use. When it's drained, is actually using oxygen and going to your lymph and all that kind of stuff. We use the aerobic system to help reload the anaerobic system. So people who are young and they've done track and field, is if you're a coach and you'll do a sprint for 400 meters and you do a really light jog for 800 or whatever, the point of that isn't just for the extra, like you said, we talked about earlier, but people think it's, the extra calorie burn or some shit like that. No, it's not. It's to let you reload the gun and then go again. And the bigger thing that for an expression of force that I've been sort of looking into closely at the moment is more from a conditioning side, is the bigger base you have, the ability, the more ability you have to reload that gun. So the bigger, as he said, aerobic base you have, the ability for you to actually recover faster, to express more force more frequently is important.
Another example I want to give for these energy systems and probably the muscle fibers that we're going to be using, make it really simple. 100 meter sprint is going to be that fast twitch alactic system, which is part of the anaerobic system, right? It's going to be fucking maximum effort, right? But you burn out 10 seconds, 12 seconds. You can't maintain that pace, that intensity for longer. Okay, now what Will was talking about is, now if I want to repeat that, let's say I want to do 10 100 meter sprints, I'm going to need to rest probably 10 minutes before I can repeat that and match that time, because of how intense that was. And I've burnt that fucking energy system out, and now I need to use my aerobic system to replenish it so I can repeat that high intensity effort. All right, now the next energy system is still our anaerobic system, but it's our lactic system. And this might be still connected to our fast twitch fibers, but there's going to be some slow twitch work in there as well. This might be our 400 meter run, right? Where we're working hard. We hit that 250, 300 meter mark. legs start feeling really fucking heavy, right? Actually burn that system out. Your body's creating these metabolic processes to, generate energy, and now it's leaving this lactic as a byproduct or a waste byproduct that your body needs to then clear out. And same thing, if I'm going to repeat that and I'm going to keep the same intensity, I'm going to keep the same pace, then I'm going to need to rest. That rest is probably not going to need to be as long as it would be for the alactic system because the intensity is not quite as high. But then we go into the aerobic work, and this might be a 5-kilometer run, and we can maintain like a lower intensity speed, but hold that for a lot longer. And, if you get to an end of a 5-kilometer run and someone's like, I want you to run another kilometer, you're probably going to be able to do that at roughly the same pace or without dropping off too much. So I think that's a pretty good place to start winding up. Did you have anything else to add to that, mate?
Nah, like you said, it is the ability to recover faster, the ability to recover, like you said about effort of, I could do 5K, then the extra one, that is purely, like you said, that's the difference between the aerobic system and the anaerobic system. Is if I do 100 meters balls out as fast as I can, I could not repeat that same effort again because I haven't got the gas to do it. Whereas if you ask me to do that 5K option, emotionally, I'll be calling you all the swear words under the sun, but I could actually dig my heels in and at least give you a close effort to that. So that's where the differences lie.
Yeah. So those higher intensity efforts are linked to our fast twitch muscle fibers, which are fueled by our anaerobic energy system or systems. And then our longer endurance-based efforts are primarily fueled by our aerobic energy system, which is linked to our slow twitch muscle fibers.
Yeah.
Sweet. Love it, mate. Thank you very much, brother. Let's wind it up and I shall let you go. I appreciate this, man. Let's definitely do this again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, bro.
Legend. Thank you, man.
And there we have it, part 3 of this 1 hour, 40-minute conversation with Will Foden. You can find all of his links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this conversation, please pass it off to your friends and family if you believe that they can benefit from it, and any 5-star ratings and reviews are much appreciated. Much love, guys. Peace.